So to make the Cutie Utility Basket, we are going to be using Red Heart Super Saver. This is a great low-cost, sturdy yarn that is great for baskets. For this particular basket, I'm going to be making kind of a gradient from red to gray. So for the base, I'm going to use this kind of maroon, which is called claret. I think the red is just red, cherry red, and then this is dusty gray. So it's going to be a little bit different yardage for each section. The base, because we're making the bottom of the basket, we're gonna need extra of this one. So we need 275 yards of the base color. We need 150 of the middle color, and then about 120 yards of the top color. So keep that in mind when you're picking out your colors. Make sure you have enough in each one and don't just grab, you know, if it's like a Vanna's Choice, which is one of the baskets that's in the picture of the pattern, that one you would have to grab a couple of skeins for the base. So one thing that you'll notice in the pattern is, and as we start working, we're going to be working with 3 strands of the yarn throughout the entire project. So not necessarily just 3 strands of this or 3 strands of that. It's going to be mixing and matching to create that ombre effect. So obviously we can't just use the yarn as is. So in the special instructions, it says to wind 2 center pull balls of each of the colors. I love using my yarn winder. If you don't have one of these, I'll link it in the description because this makes life so much easier, but I also have a link for how to wind it manually by hand into a center pull ball, so I will share the link for that video as well. And then the other thing is, when you're winding it, like how do you know once you've gotten to the amount that you need? Well, that's where this guy also comes in. That's super handy. This is a yarn counter, so it gets wound around this wheel, and then as you wind, oh, I have it upside down. As you wind, it's going to tell you how many yards you've wound, so that if you know what the yardage is on your skein, you can kind of stop halfway and then cut it and start another one. So with the basket, you are going to need a J hook. So that seems really small, especially when they're telling you to use a 5mm just for 1 strand of yarn. We're going to be using 3 strands at once. That is because the smaller the hook, the tighter the stitch and the stiffer the basket. By using that tighter, smaller hook, you're going to get a nice stiff basket that can stand up on its own even when nothing is in it. If you have maybe hand pain or it's just too difficult to use this small of a hook, feel free to up the size. Your basket will be a little bit bigger and a little bit floppier, but it will work. So I'm going to get started with the project. The link for the actual pattern is in the description. I'll be giving little tips and tricks throughout, so be sure to watch through the whole video so that you don't miss out on any of those little tidbits. So let's get started. But first, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you don't miss out when I release these patterns. Okay, I'm ready to start my basket. I've got 3 strands of my CA or my claret that I'm using. My first suggestion, tip, whatever, I say wind into 2 center pull balls. You can always do 3 and then just work for from the center of each one. I am just very lazy and 2 is faster than 3, so that's why I have done 2, but that is always an option. So for round 1, and every single stitch we're doing are all single crochet, so super simple. It's just what we're doing with the yarn is what's going to give it the look. So we are going to start with a magic adjustable loop. So when you're doing one, you're just going to grab your yarn, you have your tail facing you and you're working yarn away, and just flip it over. And then you're going to reach through to your working yarn and pull up that loop. So you have kind of a pretzel going on, or a little knot. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets into this magic adjustable loop. You can start with a chain 1, or you can go right into the single crochet, whatever you prefer. It works both ways. I went ahead and did a chain 1, not a single crochet, but we're going to single crochet 6 times. And you'll see that with the small hook, it will take a little bit to get used. I'm doing a half double, pay no attention. With the smaller hook, it will take a little bit to get used to pulling all of those through. Like I just had a little issue right there. So my advice, take it slow until you get used to it. I'm rushing because I'm on video. But one thing to get through all those loops easily, another tip, is to turn your hook down and face it towards the stitches. That gets you right in the middle of kind of the V's of those stitches and pulls through. So again, we're gonna pull up and pull through by facing down. Now some hooks will work better than others. This is a Furls hook. It works fairly well. I'm gonna grab another one of my favorite hooks and see if it works a little bit better with these 3 strands. Okay, so this is my Tulip Edimo hook. I love these guys as well. The metal is very slick and it goes through very easily. So I'm gonna just give it a try with that one and see if I'm having a little bit better success getting through 1, 2, 3, 4, and see if I like that a little bit better than the Furls. And it looks like I'm having still the same issue. There we go. All right, here is my 6th one. So I think I'm gonna stick with this hook actually, and you'll see the head is just slightly different. This one has more of kind of that inward thing, and I think it's getting caught a little bit when I'm pulling through on the regular loops. This one's a little bit more in line and it's not catching as much. So don't be afraid, another tip, don't be afraid to try different hooks if one's giving you a little bit of an issue. I love the Furls, they're so light, they're so pretty, but sometimes you gotta switch, and I'm going for the utilitarian Tulip so that I can make this easier and faster. I will link both of these in the description though, in case you like them and want to go check them out. Okay, so as you're working, you can, if you're making your magic adjustable loop and you're not sure how many stitches you've made, work backwards. You're looking for those V's that you've made at the top of your stitch. So each V is 1 stitch. So here's my 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I have 6 total. So I'm ready to close this up. So I'm going to grab that tail, and it should be looped around. It shouldn't be hanging out like this. It should be looped inside of your circle. And then you're going to pull that tight. And that's going to close up that circle for you. Now we are not going to join our round, and that is so that we don't have a seam on the basket. We're going to work in spirals, and that'll just make it look more seamless any way that you put it, wherever you're putting it. You don't have to hide the seam in the back. So to do that, we're going to work into the first single crochet. So you can see it's kind of far away. It's a little far away, so you're going to do a little bit of gymnastics to get over there. But again, if you're having trouble going, where is that first stitch? Look at your V's. Turn your project sideways and look for the V's on the top of your stitches, and that's where you're going to work in. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to work in all the way over here. So I'm going to insert under both loops. Now remember, these stitches are going to be tight because we're using 3 in such a small hook, but switch up if you need to. Then we're going to go ahead and do our first single crochet of round 2. So I'm kind of pulling everything tight so it comes over to where I'm at, and that will help close that the circle down as well. But I'm going to do my first single crochet of round 2, and then I'm going to place a stitch marker. So I love these split ring ones. They're just so simple to slide on and off. I'm not a super fan of the locking ones because you have to lock it and unlock it. This stays on. I've never had these fall out, so these are my favorite. I'll link those as well in case you don't have those, and you might want to try them. So this stitch is going to get pulled a little. Don't worry, as you work around, it's going to be looking normal like everything else. But for round 2, we're now going to increase every stitch. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in every stitch. So that's where I worked my last single crochet. So I'm going back in there. I always go under both loops for the stitch, and then I'm going to do another single crochet. Then I'm going to do my next stitch. I'm gonna do 2 in there. Make sure you get some good slack. And we're gonna continue that in all 6 stitches, and that's gonna give us 12 stitches at the end of the round. And you'll notice as you're working, these stitches are super sturdy, super tight. This is what gives your basket that structure to stand without any problem. So I've got 2 more. With that stitch marker, it's a little easier to see where the stitches end and start. But again, you can always count if you're getting lost, you're not sure how many you've made, you can always stop. And I work backwards, it's just easier for me. I work from where I just made a stitch, and then I count backwards and make sure that I have the right amount of stitches, which is 12 is what I want for this one. Okay, so now we're ready for round 3. So I'm gonna pull my stitch marker out and always keep it handy so that I can put it where I can grab it easy. Always keep it handy because you wanna put it back in right away so that you don't lose anything. So I'm gonna do my first single crochet of round 3, put my stitch marker in, and then look at my pattern. Then that way it reminds you, do your single crochet, look at your pattern, put that stitch marker in so you don't forget, because if you just start looking at your pattern and start going, you might forget to put that in. And since this is single crochet for everything, you know you're always gonna single crochet at the beginning of each round. Okay, so for round 3, we're gonna still be increasing. We're gonna increase a ton for the base, but we're gonna spread it out. So we can't just increase nonstop in one section because that will make a lopsided circle. We have to space them evenly. So when we do our increases, this first stitch is gonna be an increase, which means we're gonna do 2 single crochets in that first stitch. Now we're gonna separate each of our increases by 1 single crochet. So you'll notice that the V's kind of turn up towards you. So don't go straight here. This is just your back loop. If you turn it sideways, you don't see your V's anymore. All of your V's are kind of coming towards you. So we're gonna kind of go in the front and under to get under that V. So we're doing 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're gonna do 2 in the stitch after for another increase. We're increasing by 6 stitches every single round, and we're spacing them out by an extra stitch every round. So I just did 2, I'm gonna do 1 in the next stitch. Squeaky yarn. If you, another tip, if you have squeaky yarn and it's bugging you a lot, get a little bit of just plain lotion, or I learned this trick, it's not a trick, it's whatever. A million years ago, I was watching some hiking or mountain video, whatever it was, and this person on it said that if you have chapped lips, if you go into the corner of your nose, not like inside, but on the outside in the corner of your nose, that's kind of the greasiest spot, this is gross, the greasiest spot of your face, and you just rub that, and you can rub that on your lips, and it will kind of help the chap. So it was like, you know, winter time and they were out in the woods. That's my weird story, but I've always remembered it, and I've actually used it, and it does work, and I actually use it for my hook. So you can use some plain lotion, put a little bit on, and it'll help keep the squeak down, or just go inside of your nose and kind of give it a little rub through, and then that can help as well. So I am just finished that 1 single crochet. Now I'm going for 2. And then 1 again on the next stitch. So we do that 6 times to get all the way around. So if you forget where you're at, just always kind of look at your stitches. You'll see 1 in a certain stitch, and you'll see 2 coming together kind of as a V in another stitch. Or you can go back to your stitch marker and count. So you have 1, 2, which were the increases, 1, 1, 2, increase 1, 1, 2, 1. So you can kind of do that if you lose your place. So again, the rest of this round will be 2 single crochets and 1 single crochet. So we'll finish that and come back for round 4. Okay, here's my last stitch of round 3. I should have a total of 18 stitches now because we increased by 6. So again, the first stitch of my next round, I'm just gonna stop, do 1 single crochet before I look at anything, and put my stitch marker back in. So there's that first stitch done. We know we're increasing still, but this time we're going to separate each increase by 2 stitches. So that's going to be the pattern going forward. We separate by 1 this past row, 2 the next, 3, 4, until we get to what we need. So I just did my first single crochet. We're going to do another one for our increase. And then we're going to do 1 in the next stitch and 1 in the stitch after. So for a total of 4 stitches, we're on round 4. That's kind of how you can help keep track. And then we're going to do increase. So 1 in the next stitch, 2 in the same stitch, and then 2 or 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. So this will keep our circle round. So we're going to do 2 stitches for an increase and 1 stitch, and then 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 2, 1, 1. So we're going to keep doing that all the way around, and we'll end up with a total of 24 stitches at the end of this round. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back for round 5. Okay, here's the last stitch of round 4. And again, before we start round 5 and even look at it, we're going to do our first single crochet. Put that stitch marker back. So round 5, just like the last 2 rounds, we're doing increases and spacing them out. So we're going to do another single crochet in that same stitch. And then we're going to space it out by 3 stitches this time. So it's really a combo of 5 for round 5 is what you can think of it. So we're going to do 1 in the next stitch, another one in the stitch after, and then 1 more in the 3rd stitch. So we have a combo of 5. We have 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So we'll end up with 30 stitches at the end of this round. So keep on going. We're going to do that combo of 5 6 times for 30 stitches, and then we will keep on going and keep on increasing. Okay, here I am on the last stitch of round 5. Now we're moving on to round 6. Let me get that first single crochet in there. Now we're going to separate our increases by 4 stitches, so we'll have a total of 6 stitches in as our repeat just for round 6. So we're going to do another single crochet in that first stitch. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So you're probably starting to get the gist of how this is going to go. So we won't spend too much time on these rounds going forward just because it's going to be kind of the same thing over and over. So we're going to have 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches for a total of 6 stitches as our repeat. So we'll do that 6 times and come back for the next round. Okay, 1 more stitch for round 6. Now we have a total of 36 stitches in our round. We're going to keep going into round 7, where we're going to increase another 6 to 42 stitches. So this time we're going to be separating those increases by 5 stitches for a total of 7 stitches in our repeat. So 2 into that first stitch, and then 1 in the next 5 stitches. So we're going to do the 2 increasing stitches into the next stitch, and then 1 into each of the next 5 stitches 5 more times for a total of 6 times to get to those 42 stitches. So keep on going, and then we'll come back for round 8. Okay, last stitch of 7, moving on to 8. Now we're doing an 8 stitch repeat. So always doing that first stitch and putting the stitch marker back so you don't get lost. And then we're going to do 2 in the first stitch, And then we're separating those by 6 stitches. So 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. This is going to give you a total of 48 stitches at the end of this round. And we're getting closer, more than halfway there before we can just start working single crochets. I think that was my total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So remember, we're going to do 2 single crochets in our next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in each of the 6 stitches after, 5 more times to get a total of 48. Alrighty, round 8 is done, ready for round 9. Sure you're getting tired of increasing, but we got a couple more to go before we can start making the basket. So I'm breaking my rule. I just did my increase at the same time. So I'm gonna put my stitch marker in that first single crochet. So I have 2. Now we're separating by 7 stitches for a total of 9 for our pattern repeat. That's going to give us 54 stitches at the end, since we're gonna do it 6 times as usual. You'll see that the base is starting to look like a hexagon. Don't worry, once you start doing the basket, it's going to round out. So it doesn't, it's gonna look more hexagonal as you go with the increases, because we are increasing in 6 specific areas every single round. But don't worry, it's not gonna look like a hexagon once you start making the actual basket. So let's see, I probably got 1 more here. You'll start to like notice too, like where it ends. So you'll see my increase from the previous round is down here. So I've done this enough that I can eyeball it. So I'm sure I probably have 9 already. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I am going to start doing my increase. So just keep on going around, get those 54 stitches, and then we'll have 3 more rounds of increasing, and then we'll be ready for basket time. All right, 54 stitches down. We're gonna kind of speed through these next 3 because I think you get the gist of it. We're going to do 2 single crochets in our first stitch for round 10. Then we're separating by 8 stitches for a total of 10 stitches. And then we'll wind up with 60 at the end. So again, 2 in the first stitch, and then 8 just regular single crochets, and repeat that for a total of 6 times. So we'll meet up after 60 stitches for round 11 and get through these nice and quick so we can move on to the basket. Okay, here's round 10 is done. We're going on to 11, and just like all the previous rounds, we're going to start with an increase, and then we're going to separate our stitches or our increases, this time by 9 total stitches. So we have a total of 11 for round 11. So we'll have 66 stitches at the end of this round, and then we'll have just 1 more round of increasing, and then we get to start forming the sides of the basket. So keep on going, you're almost there. All right, we're last round of increasing. You can see we have quite a hexagon going. Again, do not worry, that will get remedied as we work the basket. But 1 more round of increasing, and then we'll start seeing something happen. So we're gonna do 12 stitches in our pattern this time, for a total of 72 stitches. So we're going to do 2 in the beginning, and then separate it by 10 single crochets for a total of 12 stitches, 6 times around for 72 total. So this is your final increase round. No more increasing after this. So go ahead and get this done, and then we'll start on our basket. Okay, we are done increasing. We are still keeping the stitch marker though, because we need to keep track of our rounds. So just go ahead and start your first stitch of round 13. Oop, sticking to me. One thing to note, if you've never worked a basket or a beanie like this, where you kind of work the increases and then the regular stitches, It's gonna stay flat for a couple of rounds, so don't freak out. It will start to cup up into the basket shape after like 3 or 4 rounds. But what we're gonna do for rounds 13 through 17 is use just the 3 strands still of the base color and just single crochet in every stitch around. So we'll be doing 72 stitches around all the way until the end of round 17, and then we will start changing colors. So these will be nice easy rounds. Just keep going, don't forget your stitch marker, and we'll meet up at the end of round 17 to do our first color change. Okay, I've got 2 more stitches of round 17, and on this last stitch you'll see in the special instructions that it talks about changing your colors during the last stitch of the round before. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to start our single crochet and pull up our loops, and then we're going to switch out one of our strands of the CA color and substitute it with a CB. So I am going, and you'll notice if you've wound 2 balls, you'll have one that's definitely bigger than the other because you're only using 1 strand from that one. So I'm going to keep using that one, and I'm going to cut off one of these, and I'm actually going to cut the one that's on the outside so I can kind of wind that back up a little bit. So I'm just going to cut it. Actually, I cut that the wrong spot. I wanted to cut it closer to this. Don't be like me. Cut your tail the other way. I was going to cut it really close up here, but that was not really what I wanted to go for. So now I need to find that. Give me a second. I'm going to go search that back here and cut it a little shorter so it's not in the way. Okay, I found it. So I'm going to cut that off and then unwind it because it's probably pretty good and wound up from when you're working. And we're going to drop that one off. So now I just have the 2 strands from the 2 balls that I still have. And I actually want to see, this one's popping out, so let me wind this up so it's not in the way. Okay, put those over there. Let me just get these kind of discombobulated here. Okay, there we go. We have our 2. Now we're going to leave a tail for weaving in of the red, and then bring these all together, and then we're going to pull those through to start the next round. So now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 2 rows with this color combo, and I don't do anything special with it. I don't like try to have one dominate the other or anything like that. I just go for it, and how it lays is how it lays. If you want, you can, if you want maybe the red extra, prominent, you can sit there and mess with it, but I want it to be more natural, so I'm just going to do it and let it go how it goes. So do 2 rounds. We're doing round 18 and round 19, and then we're going to change the color again. So do those 2, and I'll meet you up at right at the end of round 19 so we can start round 20. Okay, 2 stitches down, or 2 stitches to go. And on this last one, we're going to be doing another color change. So we're going to pull up all of the loops like normal, but we're going to drop another one of our darks. So this time I'm going to cut it the right way. And I want to take this one that is getting nice and small and cut that one. Okay, so that is this one, and I'm going to give it enough to weave in, and then I'll pull that out of there. Okay. Now I'm going to grab another red. I'm going to grab from the middle here, and we're going to add in a second of our color B. Let me detangle everything first. Oh, I took my rings off. Sometimes my hands get cold and then they shrink, and then the rings are just flinging around, so I took them off so they're not in my way, in case you're wondering why they're sitting over there. So now I'm going to add in my second red. So I have all 3 strands now. I have a strand to weave in, and then I'm going to grab all of those and pull through. So you can see kind of how the red just is throughout. It's nothing that's planned, so I'm going to keep on doing that same kind of thing. This is going to give us a little bit more red because of the change in color. So you can really do this in any colors you want. You can be very monochromatic. You can be very, you know, bright pops of different colors. I have a couple different other options that you'll see in the pictures. So it's really, this is a fun project to really experiment with color. And if you have themed rooms like a nursery, you can do it in the colors of the nursery, or, you know, even your bedroom, whatever it may be. It's a really fun project to play with color. So with that said, this is going to be 3 rows with 2 red and 2 CB, 1 CA, just single crocheting as usual. So you're gonna do, I said rows earlier, I think. You're gonna do round 20, 21, and 22, and then we will make some more color changes. So go do those 3 rounds and we will meet back. Okay, last 2 stitches. And then we're ready to switch to our new colors. Again, we'll pull up and leave those all together. And now we're gonna go full red or full CB. So I am going to cut the last of the maroon off and pull that out of the mix. And now I am going to grab one of my ends. I think I'll grab, let's see, which one have I been using? I think I've been using that one. I'm gonna grab this end. And we are going to bring that in with our other 2 for a total of 3 reds or 3 CBs. Remember that tail. Okay. It's always fun this first stitch to get through. It kind of locks in good though. Like I never really have problems with it coming undone as I'm working, because I think all of the different strands are all just locked in. So now we're going to work in just CB or red for a bit. So we're gonna do 5 rounds. So we're gonna do rounds 23 through 27 in the red. So 5 full rounds, and then we'll start switching over to our gray or our CC. So just keep on working these single crochets over and over again, and don't forget that stitch marker. And then we'll come back at the end of round 27 to start switching colors again. Okay, here we are on the last stitch, and we're gonna start switching colors. This is the end of round 27. So we're gonna pull up the single crochet as if we're about to work it, and we're gonna drop off one of our reds. So we're gonna cut that guy out, and then we're going to bring in CC, or in my case, gray. So we're gonna run that along, make sure you have nice long tails to weave in. Tail's always going to the right. And then we're gonna finish off that stitch, if I can get around the hook. Okay, now we are going to do 2 rounds with the 1 CC or 1 gray before we start changing colors again. So keep on going around for another 2 rounds with the 1 strand of your 3rd color, and then we will meet up to switch out some more colors. Okay, here we are at the end of round 29, and I actually need to back up because I want to change colors at the end of this round. So I'm going to start up, then I'm going to drop one of my reds because it's time to add in another gray. So I'm going to cut that. Just moved, so my scissors, I need to go find them. There's some regular male scissors. Okay, then we're gonna add in our gray. So again, leave the tail long enough for you to weave that in easily. Just kind of lay it over with your other strands that you've got going on. And then we're gonna finish that stitch. Now we are going to do 3 rounds with 2 of the grays and 1 of the reds, so 2 CCs and 1 CB. So we're going to do 3 rounds around, and then we'll come back and change our color again. So just keep on single crocheting until you get to the end of round 32. Okay, here I am at the end of round 32, and now it's time to go all gray. So I'm going to start my stitch. I'm going to cut my red. I found some scissors. And then I'm going to bring in the outside gray here, and we're going to add that in. And then we're going to go ahead and do 2 more rounds of single crocheting, but in all gray, so that way we can get to where we have the handles. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 more rounds. Always remember your stitch marker so you don't lose your place. And then we're going to come back and work on creating the handles for the basket. So go ahead and do round 33 and 34, and then I'll meet you right there at the end. Okay, here I am at the end of round 34. So now for round 35, we are gonna start making the handles. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna single crochet 13 stitches. So I'm gonna place my stitch marker first. So that's 1. And here is our 13th stitch. The reason we're doing this is to kind of make our seam, which isn't really a seam, but if you look closely, you can see, the offset of the colors. So we're turning the handles on the sides here, so that way this is the back. So next we're gonna make a handle. So the first portion of the handle is chaining 10, and we're gonna chain fairly tight because we're going to work around the chains on the next round, so don't make them too loose. So 10 chains. And one thing to note, you can skip handles. You can make them bigger, smaller, whatever you like. Change your chains to make it bigger, smaller, or just omit the chains and keep on working the rest of the basket and just single crochets if you want no handle. Now we're gonna skip the next 10 stitches. Move my basket around here. And then we're gonna single crochet 26 stitches. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're gonna single crochet into that 11th stitch. And then we're gonna do 25 more single crochets, so 26 in all, and that'll get us to the other side to make the other handle. Now I was about to say other half of the handle. No, the other handle. So keep on going for 26 stitches, and then we'll make the second handle. All right, I got 25 and 26. So now I'm ready to make my second handle, which should be right on the opposite end of the first one. So again, we're going to chain 10, nice and tight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we're going to skip 10 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. and then we should have 13 stitches left. So we're gonna single crochet in that next one and then single crochet 12 more stitches to our marker. Okay, here I am at the end of round 35. We only got 2 more rounds to go. We're almost done. So for round 36, I am going to be doing another 13 single crochets to get to my chain 10, and then we're gonna work the handle. Okay, here I am at my handle. Let me move this basket around. It's very stiff, so I have to undo it and then redo it. So I'm got 10 chains. I'm going to work 10 single crochets all the way around the chain. So I'm going to reach through the big hole, pull up the loop, and do my single crochet. Try to keep like your loops close together, because with this being that big, you know, you could have really wide stitches, which is going to make them look funky. So just make sure that you're bringing all of your loops close together when you're making your single crochet. Don't worry if everything is kind of scrunched to one side when you make the 10 and you still have like some room here. You'll be able to kind of pull them and make them all even if you have that issue. They can move since they are around the entire chain, so don't worry too much about that. So here I am at 6, 7. I'm kind of purposely trying to make it over there. My DNA. Hold on, gotta shred a DNA in here. Come here, DNA. It's always in my projects. Here we go. How many did I do now? Oh, nope, still stuck to me. My DNA loves me so much. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm purposely trying to like leave a little space so you can see how you can move it. 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you see how I have kind of this little chunk right here? I can just spread these out and cover that up easily, so don't worry too much. Then we are going to single crochet in each stitch around until we get to our other handle and do the same thing with the 10 around the chains, and then single crochet to our stitch marker. So I think you guys get the gist of single crocheting around the handle, so I'm going to leave you to it to finish this round, and then we'll come back for our final round. Okay, here we are, the last stitch of the second to last round. So we have one more round left, and this one's an easy round. We're just going to single crochet in every stitch around. Be sure to still use your stitch marker, because we're going to do one special stitch at the end to make sure you don't have this big gap that you have going on right here. So just single crochet all the way around. Same thing when you get to the handles, just single crochet into each of those stitches and you'll be good to go. And we'll meet up at the end of the round. Okay, here I'm at the last stitch of the last round. You can see I have my handles nice and made. So what we're going to do for the very, very last stitch is that we are going to do a slip stitch into our next stitch. So we're going to insert our hook, pull through a loop, and then pull through the loop on the hook. And that will bring us down, so that way it is not so high. So after that, we're going to fasten off and weave in the ends, and the basket is done. So let me show you. And I would again, not again, just I would take the ends that I'm weaving in and take it to the next stitch on top of that, and that'll help pull it down even more. But that's also with those handles, this will be the back of the basket, so it won't be as noticeable. So that's why we put the handles on the side there. So that is the basket. So I hope you enjoyed making it. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bells for the next free pattern to be released. And head over to my Instagram. I do polls on which paid patterns you'd like to see released next, so that will get you on the fast track to get one that you might like released. So go check that out. The link is in the description. But I am Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and thank you for watching.